Ariel Helwani in Mexico City for UFC 180 alongside Leslie Smith, who meets Jessica Ai this Saturday on the Fox Sports 1 prelims. Leslie, thank you very much for the time. I understand you got here on Friday before your team. And correct me if I'm wrong, one of these days you were eating alone and the headliner himself, Mark Hunt, actually invited you to come sit with him. Is that true?
Yeah, he did. It was super nice of him. I was down there by myself, and Mark and his team, they all waved me over and said, have a seat. And they were super nice and super positive. And man, it's so validating to be able to be out here at the UFC and have the main event, you know, and such a respected main event. You know, everybody loves Mark Hunt. And to have him invite me to sit at his table and then to treat me with such a high level of respect, you know, it was super validating. It was a great way to start off my trip out here.
So why did you decide to come a little earlier than your team?
Well, a lot of people have talked a lot about the elevation. It's about 8,000 feet, and there's a lot of different effects that the elevation can have on people, you know, like headaches and bloody noses and lowered athletic ability. And so I wanted to make sure that I could come out and adjust and feel it out, you know, and I feel really good. I've been able to do that. I've trained a couple times every day since I've been here, and I feel pretty amazing.
You don't feel the effects of it at all?
Well, so in doing some research, I read some things, and it was talking about how, you know, when you are at altitude, that output is not going to be as high as it would be. You know, like nobody has ever done record-breaking anything in the different competitions when they were at a higher altitude that they're not used to. However, my opponent, Jessica, is going to have to fight against the altitude and against me. And I don't feel like the altitude is affecting me negatively. I'm in such amazing shape. For my 3 miles, you know, my coach has me run 3 miles, and between my last fight camp and this fight camp, I dropped 5 miles off, 5 minutes, excuse me, 5 minutes off of how long it takes me to run 3 miles, and that's kind of a big deal. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I was, you know, I'm pretty excited about it.
More to that point, I was talking to one of your team members, and he was telling me that this is the longest time that you've had to train for a fight ever, 7.5 weeks. Typically you take, you know, we saw against Sarah Kaufman, you had essentially a week. You've had some fights on a few hours notice. Do you feel the effects of that, and is that accurate? Is this the longest time you've had to prepare for a fight?
I've had in any of my UFC fights, yes.
Yes, but in your MMA career?
In my MMA career, man, maybe I think that I had 2 months straight for an Invicta fight one time. But yeah, I think that this is, man, I was only thinking about it in terms of UFC fights, but I think that you're right, that this is the longest one in my entire career. And that's really cool because, you know, you go through the phases of training. Nate Diaz talked about it one time, about how you first you're just training, you know, you're like gathering all these different tools, and then you find out that you have a fight, and so instead of gathering new tools, you start sharpening the ones that you have. And then you go into the fight, and then after the fight, you know, you go right back to gathering these new tools. And so I have had a longest period of time to sharpen the tools that I already have, and they're sharp.
You know, when the UFC's women's bantamweight division was rolling, I think a lot of people were wondering, when are you going to get a shot? Because you were a fairly well-known name, a fan favorite, and then you get that shot on a week's notice, and you perform very well, but, you know, it was tough. I mean, you were dealing with a lot. You had to cut the weight and all that stuff. And then you come back in the summertime and you look fantastic. And people are saying, well, wow, this is the Leslie Smith that we know and we've come to expect. Did it feel like, okay, to the world, this is who I am. Forget about what happened in April. This is who I am when I have time to prepare and when I'm actually, you know, in the mix here?
Yeah, it was a big deal for me to put on a great show and put a really big exclamation point, just like it is for this fight, is that I need to put on that exclamation point and to show that this is what I can do when I have a training camp, when I have a full camp, when I've got, you know, all the resources that people assume that an MMA fighter has every time they fight. Well, we don't have them every time we fight. But since I did have them this time, I'm excited about showing it off.
Was that the greatest feeling you've ever experienced in a cage, winning that first UFC fight?
Oh, man, it was amazing. It was amazing. The very first fight that I ever had as an amateur, that was a pretty amazing one too. I knocked the woman out and got a standing ovation from the crowd, and then someone ran back and said, hey, can we sponsor you? Wow. Yeah, so, you know, that was pretty amazing, and sometimes they say, like, you know, nothing can top the very first time, but definitely getting my first win in the UFC, that came pretty close. They might be tied.
So you still rep Gracie Fighter, but from what I understand, you moved out to San Francisco training full-time with El Nino team, Gilbert Melendez and his team over there. Why did you decide to do that?
Well, we're all part of the group.
Right.
There's the Diaz brothers out in Lodi, and then there's Dave Terrell who's up in Santa Rosa, and so we figure that we all help each other out. I moved out to El Nino Training Center because it is a fully comprehensive MMA training. It's got everything that you need, everything that I need underneath one roof. And I was already going out there for probably about 60 or 70% of my training, but I was making the drive every single day. And so this time, I feel like in order to improve every time, I need to, step up my training every time. I want to fight like a pro and a champion and a top 10 fighter, then I need to train like all those things. And so I rented a room in San Francisco, just 5 minutes away from the hotel. I was away from my boyfriend, away from my dog, away from, traffic jams, away from any other kind of distractions, so that I could be there. And then having everything underneath one roof, that made such a big deal. My head trainer, Jongson, he's there all the time. And so he was able to see, okay, I know you're doing this, and I know you're doing this, and okay, so now we're going to focus on this every single day, and it's huge to have so much communication within the training camp.
As I mentioned earlier, you have a fan-friendly style. People love watching you fight. I was talking to Jessica earlier and saying, like, are you expecting a quote-unquote war with Leslie on Saturday? And she said, no way. There's not going to be a war. I'm going to beat her up. Even on your best day, you can't hang with her. What's your response to that?
I say, man, good luck with good luck. I get that people have to build up their fight, and if that's what she has to say in order to build up the fight, then that's great for it. Personally, I'm not going to put down someone I'm about to fight, because when I beat her, I want to stand up that much taller, and I stand up that much taller right after I beat someone who I've respected. And I'm more well-rounded. I mean, I guess that's the cliche thing for I'm more well-rounded and I have better cardio and everything like that. But I am. I haven't seen a whole lot in her past fights that I feel like is going to be a big problem for me. And I have more inside of my arsenal than I've ever had before. I feel like me months ago could have beaten her up, and me today could beat up me from months ago. So, it's too bad she has to fight me for her, but it's a good thing for me, and I'm excited about taking that win home.
Do you seek out the firefight? Do you want that brawl, or would you prefer a 10-second knockout?
Well, I think a 10-second knockout would be awesome. I'll take that any day.
Quick and easy.
Yeah, quick and easy, in, out, and then off to party in Mexico. That would be great. However, I do, when I'm lying in bed at nighttime and trying to go to sleep, I pictured the fight going as many different ways as it possibly could. Over 1 million different scenarios have gone through my mind, and definitely a firefight has been one of them, and then a quick put her to sleep has been another one. So I'm excited for whatever happens.
Final question, she has been dealing with a lot in and out of the cage. Most of it has been well documented. Are you banking on the fact that she's going through a lot and that she might not be 100% there come Saturday night?
I haven't actually focused on her social life. I don't really pay that much attention to what's going on with her. I'm here to fight her, and so when I've been paying attention to her, it's been in her past fights. So I don't actually know what's going on with her. Unfortunately, I don't care what's going on with her. If it means that she is less than 100%, then that's too bad for her. But even if she is at her very top best, then she's still going to go down.
Pleasure to talk to you. Best of luck. Can't wait for the fight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.